Hey, welcome back. So today in this video I am going to show you how you can create a register and login system using NextJS, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS and MongoDB. As you can see, I have no users inside my database, but we are going to create one right now. So I'm going to click in this call to action button. I am redirected to the sign up page and the password is going to be Alex. Notice that when I type my password, when all the fields are populated, this button changes. I'm going to remove this, only says sign up, but when I finish filling out everything, I need to type Alex, this button changes. Now I can click this button and the information will be processed and I will be redirected to the login page if I'm able to successfully register another user. And if I now refresh my database, I should have Alex, my user, here. Let's see. I do have it, and notice the password is hashed for security reasons, and the email was alex@gmail.com and the password was Alex. Now I press login and here I am inside the profile page. So let's start this project. First thing, I'm going to cd into my documents folder and I'm going to create a new directory inside it and I'm going to call it register login NextJS. Okay, now I want to cd into this folder, so cd, I am inside this folder, and now I want to open this folder inside Visual Studio Code. It's going to open for me. It is doing it. I'm just going to grab this. As you know, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code console and type it and dot. Okay, like this, and this is gonna start the project installation in here. So pay attention to these details because this is important for this project. Okay, to proceed, I'm gonna say yes. Okay, TypeScript, yes. As linked, yes. Tailwind CSS for sure. Source directory, yes. We will have a source directory inside this project. I will explain you a bit more. Okay, app router, yes, we will have it inside the source directory. Okay, might confuse you, but you will see what I mean by this. So customize the import, blah blah blah. I'm gonna say yes and I'm gonna just press enter. Okay, the initial project setup is done and I have started the app. So I used the npm run dev command to start our application, and now it's time for us to think about our custom files and custom folders. So because we are dealing with register and login system, this means we'll have both frontend and backend, and this means we need to organize things in that way. So if we look inside the source directory, we have the app directory that we selected when we were setting up the project, and now it's time to create a few files and folders that we are going to need. So inside the source directory, first I'm going to create the folder and the file for our MongoDB connection. So inside source is selected, as you can see. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it db config, which is a database configuration. Okay, and as you can see inside source, now I have the app and the db config. Cool. Inside the db config, I need to create a file, and this is the file that we will use to write our custom function to connect to our MongoDB. Okay, so I'm gonna call this file dbconfig, and this is going to be a TypeScript file, and we will use it to connect to our MongoDB using the help of Mongoose Connect. Let's leave it for now. What else do we need? We also, of course, because we need models, because we need a user model in this case, because MongoDB itself is schemaless. Okay, Mongoose is actually what defines the schemas inside the MongoDB database. Okay, so this means we need inside the source, we need to create another folder for the models, and inside that folder I'm going to create a file called user model.js JavaScript. Okay, and as I said, we will import Mongoose and use Mongoose to create a schema for our users that we want to register inside the database. Okay, cool. So we can actually close this now, and as you can see, now inside the source we have the app directory, the database connection, and the models for the user model. So this is looking good. Okay, now, and this is backend stuff, of course, models and DB configuration. Now it's time for us to think in terms of the front end, but I'm now remembering that we also need another file in the root, which is the .env, and inside our .env file we'll keep our secrets, so the MongoDB connection string, and people normally call it Mongo URLs, or maybe URI, it's the same thing. So I'm gonna leave it like this. Later we'll copy and paste the connection string into this file. So I'm gonna leave it like this for the moment. Okay, so the initial setup for the backend stuff, it's done because we created this file and we created these two extra folders and correspondent files. So now really is time for us to focus in the front end. So that means we should go inside the app directory. Okay, and inside the app directory we will have, of course, we have the root, which is this one, but we will also have the login page, the sign up page, and the profile page. And that means inside the app we need to create those folders. So inside app I'm going to create sign up, oops, not caps lock, I'm sorry, rename, sign up. Okay, still inside the app I'm going to create login. These are our custom pages, of course, and the last one I'm going to create is profile. Of course, just doing this, it will not work. We need to have a convention, and when we are dealing with front end, the convention is page.tsx in this case, because we are dealing with TypeScript. So inside login I'm going to create a file name called page.tsx because it's TypeScript. I'm going to just return an empty React fragment, and I'm just going to type login. I'm going to copy paste, and we need to do the same for the profile. So profile means page.tsx, and we need to do the same for the sign up. And now it's going to be so let's test these routes. So sign up, it's working. Login, it's working. And profile, it is working. So our pages are working. We are good to test it. Let's go. We added the .env file, but let's find the git ignore file, and looks like we have it in here. I'm not really sure if this is necessary or not, but just in case, I'm gonna add this .env file. This should mean all. I'm not so sure, so I added because I'm gonna be pushing this code into GitHub, so you will have access to this code. Okay, so now it's time for us to actually do some installations. Let's use npm to install some packages that I know that we will need. So I'm gonna crash the server. I'm gonna clear. I'm gonna press enter. Of course that I made a mistake because I wrote the packages names, but I forgot to add npm I, and now I can add these, and now all my packages are going to be installed, and we can check them inside our package.json file. Okay, we just need to wait a tiny bit, of course. Okay, packages installed, so it's time for us to work on our database, which means we need to, of course, build the database config file. But before that, let's go through the process of getting your connection string. Okay, for the purpose of the tutorial, I created an email, so I'm just doing this so we see the process from scratch. Okay, so I just made a Google search for MongoDB, and I want to click in the first link that I find, and in this case I want to accept all cookies and start free. Okay, so we need to do a few basic steps. Okay, and we can, instead of going through this form, we can actually sign up with Google. That's why I set up this email. So that's what I want to do. And I'm gonna use this email. Do not email me to this email, as I mentioned it before. Okay, I'm gonna accept all of this. I'm gonna submit. As you can see, I now got an email. Welcome to MongoDB, whatever. So what is your primary goal? I don't know. Okay, let's pick this option, whatever. Less than a year, in my case, whatever. In this case, of course, JavaScript and Node.js for me. And what kind of data you will use for your project, I don't know, not sure. Other, whatever. I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna finish. Okay, and this is what is actually important. Okay, so now the first thing that you want to do is to select the free option. Okay, then you can select a provider. I'm gonna stick with this one, and I'm gonna choose a region closer to me. In my case, I think I can go to Paris. This is good. You can change the cluster name, but I won't. So I think this is all good. So I'm gonna click create. Okay, we need to create a new user. So username and password. So this is my user, this is my password. I'm actually just gonna go here and copy this inside my .env file in case I need it, and it's handy. Okay, whatever, I'm gonna create user. Yeah, so this is like access from anywhere, and I'm gonna click finish and close. Congratulations, blah blah blah. Go to overview. Did we get any other email? So we got, so now we get an email saying that pretty much we have network permission from anywhere, so I can basically access my database from anywhere. And now this is the overview, and what we need to do, database access, we already have this user, right? And this user has access to all the databases and can perform all the CRUD operations: create, read, update, and create, read, update, and delete. Okay, you can do everything, and this is important. Okay, so now we can go to database, and inside database, okay, there's two main buttons that you're going to focus. The main one is going to be this one, but for now, because we are connecting and doing everything, we need to click this connect button, and we can click on this compass option, and this is going to give us this string, this connection string. So I'm gonna copy paste this, and I'm gonna open this, and I'm actually gonna enlarge this for now, and I'm just gonna paste this in here. Okay, as you can see, the username was added automatically, so I do not need it. Okay, but the password is in here, so we need to replace that. So I'm gonna cut this from here, and I'm gonna add my password. This is crucial. See what I did? I'm gonna actually zoom in. Okay, and I'm gonna remove this password thing, right, just this bit, and paste whatever password I have. Okay, and I can actually restart the server, npm run dev, zoom out, close this. Okay, so I now have my connection string, my database connection string. This is important. Okay, we are going to use, of course, I believe we installed, yes, the Json Web Token, which means we need to create a secret token. So we can go here, because we are already inside this file. I'm going to call this token underscore secret, and mine is going to be the JavaScript way, whatever you want to call it. This is mine, and this is going to be necessary later. So for now, this is good. Okay, so this is done, and now we are going to go back to the database. We can close this, and if we go and browse collections, what do we have? We have nothing. Okay, so initially this is what we need. So let's wait until the next step, and let's work inside our db config file. Okay, let's continue this. So looking at our project, we can see that we are missing stuff, right? Because inside the app, we have created our front end, so our pages, our routes, but we need to also create our API, so our backend stuff, in order to communicate and talk with MongoDB, okay, with the help of Mongoose. But before that, let's go to our root page, which is this one, and because this annoys me a bit, let's just get rid of this main and replace this with an h1 tag. I'm gonna call this home page, whatever, and I get rid of this import. It's unnecessary. Okay, good. So that out of the way, we can now focus on what we need. And what do we need? We need to actually start by working in our database configuration file, of course. First things first. So what do we need in fact? we have imported Mongoose, so let's import. We have installed Mongoose, so let's import Mongoose. Now the good stuff is we want to try to connect to, of course, the database. For that we'll use Mongoose, our nice friend Mongoose. And why is this complaining? Mongoose, what did I do wrong? Export async function, connect to database. Oh yeah, so this error occurs when we are using TypeScript, looks like. So what we need to do to fix this is to add this. See, the error is gone. Cool. So now we can actually use create a const for connection. So you can go with the usual con, which is very usual to see, but I like to go to full word, which is connection, and now we need to see if there's a connection. So connection dot on. Okay, and this is if this is all good. Okay, but if there's an error, you need to also handle that. So we can go back and use our connection, and we want to console log the problem. So you want to say something like MongoDB connection failed, or error, whatever you want to add, right? And then you want to add the error, whatever error we are getting. And finally, we want to process.exit. Process, not caps lock, process.exit. Right, so at this point, we got our connection string from MongoDB and we created our dbconfig file. But there's obviously something else that we are needing. Even before we create our UI, the front end, we need to create our user model with the help of Mongoose, right? So we need to define what we want for our user schema. So we go inside models and we select the user model, and this is where we want to work. Because as I said, MongoDB is by definition schemaless, and Mongoose is actually what defines the schemas inside the MongoDB database. So let's go. First, of course, we need to import Mongoose. Okay, this guy is going to help us a lot. And then we need to actually create a const. I'm gonna just type const user. Okay, const user equals. Oh, you can go with this option or any other option that you find and suits you better. Okay, and now of course, so I do not forget, I need to actually export my user. Okay, I do it in this order so I do not forget this stuff, especially the export part. Now I go back inside and I can actually start defining my user. All of the users will have three main things: username, email, and password. And I can go and use, I can duplicate this, right? No. So it's also going to be a string, also required, and the email is also going to be unique. And it's going to be type of string, it's going to be required, and it's going to be unique. As you can see, this user schema is quite simple. So as we know, so our user model is done, and we did some of the backend stuff, but we are not done with the backend yet. Okay, so we have created our routes for the front end for the pages for both sign up, login, and profile, as we can see inside the app directory. But this is front end stuff. We need to create our API routes for our backend, okay, in order to be able to sign up a user inside the database, to register a user inside the database, and all of that. So that means that we need to now create inside app, okay, we need to create another folder called API, okay, and inside API we need to create another folder called users, okay, and inside users we need to create the routes for sign up and login. So let's start by creating that. So I'm selecting users and I want to create the sign up route, sign up, okay, and I also want to, inside users, to create the login route. So login, okay. So let's see, to recapitulate, inside the app we have our pages, front end, and then for the back end we have another folder, API, which contains another folder for users, and inside users we have two folders, sign up and login. Notice that the sign up here is different from this sign up. Not only the file name is different, for the front end page dot something is the convention, right? But for the backend, the file convention is going to be also, I mean, there's a file convention. So inside the sign up, I'm going to create a file called route, which is API route, and in this case just TS for TypeScript. And for the login, of course, I also need a file also called route.ts. So if you open now this, it looks a bit confusing, I understand, but you will understand this when you play with this code. And as I mentioned it, I will be pushing this code into GitHub so you can have it and play with it. Okay, cool. So my route for the login and for the sign up. Okay, so this login and this sign up is API route, and this login and this sign up is front end. Okay, do not get confused with this. It's a bit confusing, but I think this is a really good way to create your project, and this is very logical and this is used often. So let's start, of course, with the sign up, because you normally want to, well, you have to sign up a user before you actually can log in the user and redirect that user, in case the login is correct, to the profile page. So let's go to the sign up route file. So I am inside users, sign up route. So I do not need this one. And you can check where you are by reading here, of course. Okay. So let's think a bit of what we need. Okay. We first need to connect to, let me think, db config file. Exactly. So first thing, we need to connect to our database. So what we need to actually do is import. Okay, we saw this already. So, and now, because we want to talk to the database, because we want to register a user, that means we need to import our user model. right? Okay, cool. What else? So when we are dealing with this backend stuff and all of that, there's like one convention. We are dealing at the end of the day with requests from the browser to the server and with responses from the server to the client, to the browser. So, but with NextJS, we can use the next server. So we are going to import. Also important is to hash our passwords. We need to encrypt our passwords. Whatever password the user types inside our UI form, we want to grab it and then hash it, salt it, and save it as an hashed password inside the database. For that, we need to encrypt passwords, which means we need to import. Okay, whatever, leave it like that. We'll deal with that in a moment. Okay, so now we need to actually, the first thing when we use next requests and responses, the first thing that we need to do is actually to connect to our database. We always need to do this, okay? So we are connecting to our database, and at the end of the day, what we want is to create a new user inside the database. So we need a post route, okay? So I'm gonna say post route, okay? I can add actually something like create a new user inside the database. I'm adding this comment so when you check the code, you know what is doing what. So now we need to export, and because we are dealing with a database, we need to export an async function. Why async? Because this process is going to take some while. It's not going to happen right away, so we need to use async. Okay, function and post, and we now need to use inside this post request. It's going to be a next request. I think this is what we need, and in here we need to do a bunch of things, to be honest. So let's start by, we need to use our try and catch. Well, okay, here I am, and if there's an error, any error, we can actually also send like a status code, like a generic status code. I'm gonna say status 500, so like a server problem. So now inside the try, we need to do plenty of stuff, to be honest. So first we need to grab the data from the body. This means that because we are using async, we need to use await because they go together in a pair. So we need to await the request, and it's a JSON format that we are looking for, and we should save this into const, and I'm gonna call this const request body or just body, whatever. And we want to destructure all the incoming variables. And we know, because we have a model, what variables we have. We have the username, the email, and the password, okay? And this means we're gonna have a const. Now that we grabbed the data from the form, from the body, and we destructured all the incoming variables, we want to check either if the user exists or not. For that, we use the if statement. Okay, so If user is true, if user exists, right? If the user exists, we want to return next response, okay? Because we are trying to register a user into the database. And if this user already exists, we want to throw an error message saying this user already exists. This is what we are trying to do, right? Because in our model, if you remember, we defined that everything needs to be unique. So the username, the email, and the password. In this case, it's the user, so it needs to be unique, okay? We can actually enlarge this for now. Okay, if the user exists, we return the next JSON, the next response in JSON format saying user exists, and we can also send a status code if the user exists. Okay, let me think a bit. Okay, if the user exists is this, but if it's all good, if this user does not exist, we want to register that user. Okay, it's unique, we want to go ahead and register this user. Okay, but before that, we need to think about our password. We need to hash the password, because as I said, we will not save the password that the user types inside our input, inside the form. We will hash it, and then the result of that is what is going to be saved inside the database. So we're going to use a const salt, which is the standard syntax, and we are going to be awaiting for bcryptjs. I sometimes make a typo typing this, and we want to generate a salt. Okay, this number, typically it's 10, but you can use whatever. So it's 10 in this case is the number of rounds, but you can go with another number if you want. I'm gonna go with this. I'm not gonna focus too much on that. And then I actually want to have a const, which is the hashed password. And we first pass the password, right? And then we pass the salt. Okay, getting this error at this point, I don't know why. Okay, once we did that, so now we know that the user is unique. We hashed the password. Now actually is the time for us to save this new user, to create this new user. So actually we need to create a new user, okay? And for that we use a const new user, and this is actually equal to new user, our user, and we need an object in here to define this user, and we know that it's gonna have like a username, what else, an email, and a password. But this password we want to save not the user password typed by the user, but the hashed version of that password. Oh, not user, come on, this is new user. Yeah, I'm tired, these typos happen, okay. This user. So now that we created the object for the new user, it's time to actually save it, which means that we need to grab we need to actually wait, okay, because we are dealing with a database, takes time, we use a wait, and we grab the new user, okay, we grab the new user, and we want to use the method save, okay, and we need to save this into a const variable called I don't know, saved user, because that, oh, save it user, because that's what you're trying to do. And looks like it's getting better. And finally, we need to return a next response, right? So we can return return next response. Well, I can define success to be true, and I need my saved user. Okay, right, I now know, of course, what's going on, because I was explaining you that in this part we were checking if the user exists, and of course this is a step that needs to be taken, but of course we need to do something else before that. So we are in the process of checking if the user exists, but this user is coming from our model, so I actually need to write the code for that. I forgot to define a const user, right? And this is the user that we'll see here. This user, we need to use a wait, and we need to go to our schema, our user schema, and find one, okay? Find one. This is what we need to do. And what we need to check is the user email, okay? So we'll use that to check. And now that error is gone. Well, if you are familiar with this this package, you probably are laughing at me at this point, because I didn't see the obvious. It took me a few seconds, almost a minute, to figure out. Look at this. The error is actually a misspelling. I need to add a T, like bcryptjs. Now I see the bulb, and now I can actually install the types. I knew that was something related to the types missing, so this should now fix my error. Looks like, oops. Okay, looks like it has worked, and looks like this is all good. And if there's still a problem, I will come back to this route file and I will fix it. But I think I have explained you everything step by step, bit by bit, and you should be able to do this. Okay, so let's continue. So now the thing is, we do have our API route for the sign up, but we do not have any UI for the sign up page. So we need to work on that, of course. So let's go here and navigate to sign up. And as you will see, we do not have anything apart from this title, whatever. So this means we need to work in the front end of our project. So we need to go to our sign up page, because we now are, this is our sign up route, and we need to go to our sign up page, and we need to start working in here. We will have to work a lot on this part. So I'm gonna forget this, I'm gonna ditch this for the moment, and what I want to do is to create that. So we need plenty of imports. So now I also know that if I have a sign up, oh yeah, let me see if I'm in the correct file. Yeah, source app sign up, I'm in the correct file. So if I have the user, I need to have the UI for the user to register, and if this goes all good and successfully. I need to use router from Next Navigation to redirect the user to the login page where the user can log in. We need to do a lot of stuff. So let's start by actually import link from next link, right? From React, from next, not next router. Pay attention to this import, to this detail. We do not want to use next router, we want to use next navigation. This is important. If you do not import the correct thing, chances are that this is not going to work. Okay, we also need Axios, because we need Axios to in our post request to our API users. So have we installed Axios? I don't think we have installed it. So let me just check. Do you see Axios? No. So we need to install Axios. Sorry for that, I forgot about it. So I'm going to crash the server clear and say npm Axios, and this should be good. Cool. npm run dev, and we have Axios installed. Good. Let's hide the console again. We need the Axios for our custom API thing. So, okay. What else do we need? Okay, and this is what we need. Whew, not so easy. Okay, export default function, sign up page. Now that we have all the imports, the first thing that we want to do is, in case the user gets successfully registered, if things go right, the first thing that we want to do is to actually redirect the user to the login page. Okay, so the first thing is, before my return, of course, we need to redirect the user. So I can define a const router, which is equals to use router, this one. Okay, so to redirect the user. Okay, and we need to, in the sign up page, we need, I'm gonna redirect to login page, because this is going to be a lot of code. I don't want you to be lost. I'm gonna define here const user name. It's going to be an empty string. Email, it's going to be an empty string, and I need a comma there, sorry. And the password, yep, you guessed it right, it's going to be an empty string. Okay, okay, now we have this defined. Okay, and the thing is, I want to have like a disabled button, I want to have a loading thing, and this means we'll use more React use states, so React hooks. But before we do that, I am sure that we need to create our const. So for the sign up, that's for the loading. I'm kind of thinking out loud, and we need to see whatever changes the user does when he types stuff. So let's work on, firstly, let's work on this UI. So inside this parent div, I'm gonna get like an h1. So I want to, inside here, I'm gonna have the sign up, cool, and inside the span, I'm gonna write for free until November 2023. I think it's time for us to check. I can actually refresh this. I'm gonna have my first input. Okay, I'm gonna have my first input. There you go. And the type is going to be text, but so I don't forget, I'm actually gonna start. I'm gonna use word view word. This is gonna be handy for you and I. Class name, and of course I want to style this bad boy. Okay, and I need to give an ID. Do I need to give an ID? I'm not so sure. Okay, ID, I'm lost now. Okay, I'm gonna give the ID for now. The type is text. The value is going to be my user.username. Of course, I'm grabbing this user.username. Yeah, and I need to have a placeholder. So your username dot. This is gonna show up here. Okay, so we know where we are. And the thing is, when the user types here something, I want to on change, or when something changes, I want to grab that change. So I want to use my set user to update my user variable, if that makes sense to you. So I can go anywhere here, so on change, and on change here, you need a capital C. These are the mistakes that we make, and then things do not work, and we do not know why. So I'm grabbing the event, E for short. For the short way is E. Some people type event, sometimes I go with the long version. Now I want to go with the short version. And I'm going to have an object, and I'm going to spread whatever is inside my user. And then I say that the username is actually the event.target.value. So basically, what I'm not username here. Hold on. I want to spread my user variable, whatever it's in there, and then I want to say that the username is the event target value. So whatever the user types in here gets saved, gets this, updates this variable. Okay. Okay, so I need two more inputs. I think I'm gonna be lazy and I'm gonna be just copy paste the next one and change what I need. User mail, set user, okay, email. I think I'm not forgetting anything. And the last input is going to be our password, right? So the ID starts as password, and the type cannot be text, needs to be password, otherwise it's visible. Password, okay, and the value is coming not from the user.email, but of course user.password, and of course all of this we define it right here. This is the user, and this is what we are defining in user and using. Okay. Let me think. So password, user, not email, of course. So means pass. That's what we are trying to update. Password. So basically, whatever we type on change, we use the set user in order to update the user variable. Okay. We need to create a regular button, and this button actually on click, on click, we need to run a function that we don't have. which I'm gonna call on sign up. So when this button gets clicked, this button that we don't see yet, so let me just finish the button. The button can simply say sign up for now, so we see the button. The function doesn't exist, that's why it's complaining. So let's create this function, and we know that we want to have a disabled button. I'm gonna create a disabled button first because we're dealing with the button part. So const, I'm gonna create button disabled. Is this the way you type it? Set button disabled. I think this is correct. And I need to use the hook. So React dot use state, and I'm going to initialize this as false. False, is this correct? Okay, not really sure. And we also need, I want to use another use state for the loading. So from the moment that we accept the user, register in the database, and before we redirect the user to the login page, we want to use a loading thing. So I'm going to create, oh come on, I'm going to copy paste this. I'm going to create a loading state, which means set loading, and initially it is not loading, which means we're gonna initialize it as false. I think this makes sense. Now we can work on this function, this sign up function, and we can go back here and we can say const. It's important to make a perfect match to these names, function names, otherwise it will break, of course. And because this is gonna take time, we're gonna use an async here, async here, which means we're gonna need to use await when we deal with Axios, that we have imported it. Have we? Yeah, we have imported it, and this means Axios async, and I'm gonna use an anonymous function. And what do I want to do on sign up? Okay. We're gonna use the typical try and catch block. Let's handle the error. Any, oops, not like that. Error, we're defining any error. Cool. Well, I mean, not so cool, but you get my point. And if that's the case, the way we handle this is like we're gonna console.log. We want to console log the error, but we also want to say something like failed to sign you up, whatever. I mean, to failed to sign up, failed to sign up the user. Okay, something like this. And we want to pass the error, whatever, message. Okay, this is the syntax. Okay, after that, if the user gets registered inside our database, that means that the sign up process went well, and that means we need to change our loading from false to true, because we go from accepting the user in the database, we start our loading, and when we start the loading, and then we redirect the user, and then we stop our loading. If that makes sense, maybe in practice it's easier to understand, but that's what we are trying to do here. So I'm gonna use my function set loading that we have defined it above, and I want to set it to true. Okay, cool. And what else do we need to do here? Of course, we now need to use Axios. Actually, we need to use Axios now to actually post to our API/users route into our sign up page, because we have, let me just close all of this because I think it's gonna be a bit easier for you to see. So we have our API, and then we have our users, and inside our users we have our sign up route. So that's what we want to post our new user using the help of Axios. Okay, so that means, okay, come on. So we need to await, because we used async at the top, and these two go together, and we use Axios that we have requested at the top, and we want to post. To what route do we want to post? I just showed you. So /API /users and sign up. The sign up is just one word. Pay attention to these details. And we want to sign up our user. Okay, this user right here that we have defined it here. Okay, and then we actually need to save this inside the response const. So I can say just const response to be a bit easier, right? And we can now console log the response data, so we know that we were able to successfully sign up a user. So we can say console.log, and we want to say sign up, okay, whatever. We can say just sign up, okay, doesn't really matter. And we want to pass our response, right? We want to console log our response dot data, which means we'll see all the data in And when this happens, the last step is actually to use our router. So we can say router.push, and we want to push the user to the login page, right? Oh, come on. I forgot the quotes. So /login. So just to recapitulate, when the user clicks the button, let me just wait this to go away. When the user clicks this button that we haven't finished it styling, but there's a button in here somewhere. Yeah, we haven't finished, but when the user fills out this and clicks this button, what is going to happen behind scenes is when the button gets clicked, it's gonna run this function, because the button has a click event, runs this function, starts to set the loading to true, and we'll see like loading instead of sign up. We'll see loading in here. That is not done yet, but we will see it. And then we use Axios to post a new user, and this user is coming from here to this custom API route. And if this is okay, we console log the response.data, and we push the user to the login page. But we need to finish the loading. So we can use our finally, oh come on, finally, and this means no matter if this actually goes through successfully or if there's an error, regardless of that, because we started this process, what we need to do is to stop the loading information on the screen. So we need to set loading actually to false. And so I don't forget that. We can also go inside the sign up. This is not all done, but instead of sign up, what we want to do here is actually to see if the loading, okay, we need to use a ternary, we can we can use the ternary operator to see if the loading is true, and if the loading is true, I want to do something else, I want to do something else. This is the syntax. So if the loading is true, if this is happening, if the loading is happening, we want to type something like processing or whatever you want to type. And if it's not happening, we want to display free sign up. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ignore this for the moment, so I don't focus on this and I do not forget thing. We need, oh yeah, because we are not working on the disable button, because by definition, okay, let's work on the disable button. Let's also finish this UI because we haven't finished it and the button is not that visible. So in terms of UI, we need to use class name font bold. And this button, instead of sign up in this case, because we already have, we have the disabled button, set disabled button. If the button is disabled, we need to check if it's disabled or not. So once again, we will use a bit of logic, ternary operator, and if the button is disabled, and if this is true, I do something else. I want to do something else. And by definition, the button disabled starts as false and else. So by definition, we see sign up. So before the user finishes typing all the information, we see sign up. When the user fills out all the 3 fields, this button text will go from sign up to register my account now. Register my account now. This is what I'm trying to do. Okay, as you can see, it's doing this, but if I do blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and it's not working yet. Why is this? Oh, of course, yeah, because I'm not setting the button disabled to, well, I'm not changing that yet, and I'm forgetting, as usual, to use the use effect. If, not caps lock, if what? The point is, how can we tell if this form is empty or not, right? How can you know that? So you can check if the username and email, oh, I see the placeholder is incorrect. For this one, your password, now it's gonna work. Yeah, should work. Come on. Continue. Yeah, this is the use state, whatever. We need to check. Oh yeah, but so let me just remove this so we see the UI. Sorry for that. I want to show you what this is, what this use effect is going to do. What we are going to check is how can we tell if these fields are empty or not in order to change this information here or there. So we need to check if the user email, password, and all of that is, the length is bigger than 0. If that's the case, means there's some information in here. Yeah, the validation of that information, it's one thing, but we are checking if these inputs have information or not. For that, if this information length is bigger than 0, means there's at least 1 character there, which means it's not empty. Okay, makes sense, right? Hopefully it does. So let's go back to this use effect and check if user.email.length, okay, if that is bigger than 0, means it's not empty. And so this is kind of required, right? Because I'm using and the user, sorry, I forgot to go with the user name. Yep, username, email, and password. So if this is not empty, because it's bigger than 0, the length, I want to do, oh come on, what am I doing? Hold on a minute. This needs to go in here. Okay. Is this correct? I'm a bit lost now. Tired and lost, but let me just review. But I think this is good. Okay. If this is the case, what we want to do, we want to set the disable button to false. Because we want to remove the button disabled. Why is this? Because now the user has inputted all the information, so now we want to allow the user to submit that information by clicking that button. Else, oh come on, what is this? Else, it's the opposite, so it's true. I guess there's some syntax error here and I cannot see it. So let me just check. User, okay. Okay, if the user, oh, and another thing that I do not want to forget is I want to have the dependency array for this user. Okay, this is quite important. Okay. Oh, come on. Yeah, I added this when I copied. That's what was causing the error, of course. These tiny things make us go nuts for no reason. And now we can actually console.log who? The user. And then I think now we can test this. Let me just open this so we can yeah, but I'm connected here, I'm connected. No, this is correct. This should be good. So let me see if I can sign up a user or not. So I can go here, console, I'm gonna clear this, whatever. So I'm gonna test by, say, test 1. My email is test1@gmail.com. And notice that on change, we are getting all the information inputted. And now when I fill out this input, this should change. The text in this button should change. So test1, register my account now, great. And I have all the information. And when I press this button, I should be able to register the user. And while this is happening, we will see the information here, processing or whatever. Yeah, processing, good. Okay, and we got the information, okay, and we were redirected. Okay, this means we successfully registered our user. So see, sign up, okay, message user created, success, blah, 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 and we get user created, saved user, and we get all the information. And we can now go here, refresh our database, and as you can see, test users, and we have our user created. Whew, it took some time, but we were able to oh yeah, I'm redirecting to the login, so this is correct. So when you sign up, you redirect to the login. When you log in, you redirect to the profile. So the sign up page, UI and backend logic is all done. It's all working. So this is super cool. We next need to build everything but for the login. Okay, well, in fact, the sign up form is working. As we saw, we have our user registered, and as you can see, the password is hashed, all good. But I was actually about to forget to add a couple more things, so I need to add 2 links. One for the user to go to the login page here, in case he has an account already, and at the bottom I want to provide also a link to the home page, because as you can see, we have no navigation or anything. So let's just add those 2 things and we continue. So as you can see, we have imported the next link, but we haven't used it. Okay, so let's first create this new link. The first one, the href, in this case goes to the login page. Okay, and do you have a free account already? Let's style this p so we don't forget. And I want to use underline in this case. Normally I don't use it, but I want to use it in this case. In fact, I want this to be on the same line. So what I actually need to do is to grab this span, okay, and put it inside the p tag. Okay, cool. So this is what I wanted. So now we just need to add the back to home page information. So I'm going to need another link. The href for this one is going to be just the root of the project, and I want to have a p tag again, and the class name, class name. This time I want margin top just 8, and I want to have opacity, I want to change the opacity to 50. Okay, and in here I want to have this icon that we have imported here from FrontAwesome earlier, and I want to paste it right here. So I have the icon, and this icon can actually be styled a bit. So class name, and I want this to be in line and margin right 1, and I'm gonna add the text back to the home page. Let me see, should happen here, should show in here. Okay, there we go. So now I click and I'm back to the home page. Of course, cool. And now I can go back to the sign up. Cool, this is all working. So now we officially finished our sign up page, and it's time for us to move on to our login page in terms of UI and all of that good stuff. I think we can reuse some of this code, so it might be a bit faster. So let's continue. Right, let's just move on. So we want to work on our login page. Okay. And this is the sign up page, and we need to open our login page, so the front end. Okay. I'm gonna so we can use, I think we can reuse, we're gonna need, let me look at these imports. Okay, we're gonna need that. Yeah, we're gonna need everything, so I'm just gonna grab all of this and log in. And the login, it's going to be a bit easier, and we just have to provide 2 inputs, of course. The UI is actually very similar, so let's start with the logic first. So inside our login page, before the return, okay, because the return is like the UI and all the logic goes here. So I actually want to start and use a const for our router, because once again we want to redirect the user. So if the login is successful, we want to redirect the user to the profile page. And for that reason, we need to use our router again, const router. It's going to be use router. Okay, we need this to redirect the user. And then let's create our state. So we are going to use state. We are going to use state. Yes. So React. Okay. Okay, we can do, yeah. So const. Let me just type this. So once again, we're gonna need a user. So we're gonna need to set user to update the user variable, and this is React use state. Nothing new, very similar to what we did. But this time we do not need, in order to authenticate the user in, we do not need, in this example, we do not need the username. All we need is the user email for the verification and the password. So this is what we need to check. Okay, so what we need to do is basically to see if if this exists. So we need to first we will need to check if the user has provided both email and password. So we're gonna check if the length is bigger than 0, like we did. And we want to also use a loading and a button disabled use states like we used. And on login, we start the loading. We use Axios to check if the user exists and all of that. So yeah, I'm gonna start by writing all the logic first this time, and then I will move on to the UI part, so I don't forget anything. So as I said, we're gonna use again a loading thing. So const, why am I not? I can actually button disabled and loading. This is going to be the same, so I save some time. If I can just copy paste this, cool, because we're gonna reuse this, of course. And now we need a function on login function that will trigger when the user clicks the sign up button, the login button, like we did in the sign up thing. So I'm gonna right now start this function, and I'm gonna call it on login. And because this needs to check with the database, we need to use the async method. And I'm now gonna open an anonymous function, and I'm gonna use the typical try and catch statement. Okay, and yeah, you know that we will need the finally also. So finally, and this, I think this is the initial syntax. So let's undo the finally. Finally, no, let's undo the error, the usual. So similar to what we did on the login, we want to set loading to true. Here initially, set loading to true. When the user gets logged in, the process starts. We want to start the process by setting the loading to true. We need to await Axios.post. Okay, very similar. And what we want to provide our user also, right? Okay, and we need to save this in a response variable, in a response const response. Okay, so we can use it for our console log, console.log. And in this case, the login goes through correctly and successfully. We can say like login successful, something like this. And we can also say response, which is coming from here, dot data, okay? And the final step, if everything is going correctly, like it is so far, we want to push the user to the profile page after login successful. So we use our router, once again, router.push, and we want to push the user, so redirect the user to the profile page, okay? And this is good, and like in the sign up, no matter of the result, we want to set the loading to false, so we want to stop the loading finally, okay? And now we need to use the use effect one more time. So use, this is the basic syntax. Once again, it's important to do not forget to use the dependency array for this user. Okay, cool. And now what we need to check, we don't have the UI yet, but we know that we're gonna have like two inputs, one for the email, the other one for the password. It's what we ask for the user to log in. We're gonna do what we did in the sign up, or very similar. So we need to so I can grab this. So basically we're gonna check if the length is bigger than 0 or not, because if it is, that means there's information inside the inputs that we grab and compare to whatever we have saved inside our database. I believe so. So we are checking if the email and the password, if the length is bigger, if both things are bigger than 0. Okay, that's what we are trying to do. And then if that's the case, we need to allow the user to click the button, which means we need to change this set button disabled, right? I'm a bit lost. There you go. We need to change that to false. Okay, and so yeah, if this, yeah, it's correct, because if these fields are populated, we need to make the button not disabled in order for the user to click the button and send information, so we can compare with against what we have inside the database. So that's the logic. And we have the else, which is the opposite. So if that's not the case, if the fields one or both are not populated, we want to keep the button disabled. So we then keep as true. And at this point, we can console log the user. Of course, you do not want these console logs in production, but for now, I'm going to use them. Console log, what I want to console log is the user, okay, the data. So we have the function that will run on the button, one click, and yeah, I think we have everything. Now we just need to build the UI. So let's build the div, the outer div. Let's style it a bit. So class, no, come on, not that. Class name, right? So now we need to have an h1 tag, which is, there we go. Now we need to have one h1 tag, and this is where we have like the login information, right? It's the title. Let's first style this class name. But the thing is, like we did with the sign up, we want to use some logic to decide what type of text we show. Okay, so normally we see free sign up, and if things are correct and we are able to save the user in the database, we display the message processing. Here it's similar. we show a title like, I don't know, let me just start this logic. So turn logic, and we need to check if loading is true. Yeah, this is what we want to check. If loading is true, let me just go in here, and we can check if the loading is true. If that's the case, I want to show some text, else I want to show some other text, which means by default I want to show the text account login. Okay, this is what the user sees when he goes to this route, right, before pressing the button. But if the user presses the button, we want to show a different piece of text, like we are logging you in. We are logging you in, and we need to escape that. Okay, fix it, and we are logging you in. Okay, we can add like this, doesn't matter. So now we need to grab the inputs, and I think we can reuse this to be a bit faster. So I'm going to grab the first one. It's not for the username because we want the email address. Okay, so we can grab this one, and we can go below the page one, paste this input, your email, correct. So I think all of this is going to be the same. Let me just have a quick look. Let me just view or drop. Okay, so we can actually, okay, so this is the same. Okay, the type text, user email, so that's what we want to do. On change, you want to set the user. Okay, your email. So we want to grab whatever information it's in there. So on change, the user types, and we grab the information like we were doing. I think this is correct. And that means we can do the same for the password input, call to action button. We can maybe, to be a bit faster, we can simply add this, and it's not on sign up now. The function is on login, so the function that is going to run when the button gets clicked is on login, that function that we created right here. Cool. So in terms of, oh come on, in terms of course this is not what I want. In this case we just wanna, well, we don't need this logic. In this case we always want to say login, because what we change is this text here. Okay, but the button doesn't change the text. In this case it's always the same. And now we need to grab the links again, this time for the sign up page, not the login. So I can grab both because we need both. So we can go here, but now we are not going to the login but to the sign up page. Okay, register your free account now, and of course the back to the home page is correct. So let's see, back to home page. Cool. Now we can go to login, and we can go to sign up, and we can go to login. Okay, this looks all good. So we have finished our UI for the login page, okay, and we also of course have already the sign up UI. So in terms of UI, the main pages are finished, but we need to go inside our API. We did already the logic for the sign up route, as you can see, but we are missing the logic for the login route, which is blank. So we need, of course, this in order to be able to actually log in the user after registering the user. So this is what we are going to be doing right away. In here, what we want to do is basically we want to connect to the database and check if the user exists, because the user will provide for the login will provide email and the password. So we want to check if this user exists, and we will be doing that by checking if the email exists. And as we define it in our model, the email also needs to be unique. So this is like unique, which means cannot be another user with the same email, of course. So this is what we're gonna use. And then if we check that the user in fact exists, we have this email inside our database, we want to go ahead and check if the password is also correct, okay? When it comes to the password, we need to create an encrypted token, and we need to do some other stuff. So let's go. I think I already explained to you a bit of what we need to do now. So let's just go in here. So we are inside API, and now we want to go login, and this is, sorry, my mistake. We are inside the API, and we want to go to the route. So route means backend, means API. So this is the file convention. So we are dealing with the logic for the login part. As you can see, source app API users login. Okay, cool. This is important. Do not mess up with this, especially if you tend to use the same file names and the same variable names and all of that. This is important. Okay, so we need to do a few imports. And the first thing that I want to import is our database connection, because every time we want to talk to the database, we need to connect to the MongoDB. So I'm actually gonna grab my connect to MongoDB, which is coming from this path. You know this already. And we also need to import our user model, so we can compare things, right? From and at symbol means start at the root level and go to models and then go to user model, which is the only model that we have defined in this project. And every time we want to talk to the database, this means we need to have requests and responses. So because we are dealing with NextJS, we gotta import next request, and of course we also need the next response. So a request from the browser, a response back from the server, and we are importing it from next server. If you remember, we have encrypted the password that the user typed inside this field password. We have the user type something and we encrypt that. Okay, so what we save is actually the encrypted version of that password and not the password itself. And for that, we used bcryptjs, and we also need this for the login, because we want to compare whatever the user inputted against whatever we have inside the database. For that, we're gonna import bcryptjs from bcryptjs. Be aware of the typos. If you remember, I earlier forgot to add the T in here, and I couldn't see the obvious thing and this was obviously throwing an error. Okay, for the login, because we want to send cookies, we need to use the JWT, so the Json Web Token, right? So have we imported that? I'm not really sure. I believe so, but let me just double check. Yeah, we have installed that. So now we need to import, because we're gonna need it. So import JWT from Json Web Token. Cool. Json Web Token. There's an error. Okay. Yeah, I need to. Yeah, normally because we are doing this using TypeScript, many times we need to install the types that are missing, whatever. You just click that option. Those things get installed and the error goes away. Okay, and as I said, every time we want to talk to the database, we need to connect to our MongoDB. And now we can really start working. So I can actually just remove this spacing and we can really start working, right? So what do we need to do now? Let's think about it. Of course, we're gonna need an async function as usual. Okay? So then we want our usual try and catch block statement, and we want to return if there's an error, we want to return a next response. This code. Okay. So now it's time for us to really focus on what really matters. We want to allow the user to log in. So as I said, first we want to check if the user exists, and if that's the case, we want to check if the password is correct. And after that, we want to create an encrypted token and send it. And we're going to check that, okay? So let's do this by steps. So actually I'm going to step one is like grab the data inside the requests, okay? So this is what we are doing. So first we grab the data inside the request. Okay, and we can, I guess we can console.log this information. And what information is this? It's this request body. So to see what we are getting. Cool. So this is step number one actually, and we have 3 or 4 steps. Doesn't matter. Let's do this. Step number 2, by checking its email before login. Okay, this is what we want to do, and for that we're gonna use a method called find1, because we are trying to find just one thing which is unique. In this case it's the email. In some cases you have the ID or whatever other unique identifier, but in this case we want to use the email. So const user, I'm saving this inside the user, and I want to await, because there you go, we are talking to the database, takes time, so let's use await user, and this is our user coming from our model, right? And user dot find one, I think this is the one, user find one, and I'm gonna pass the object, and what I want to check against is the email. So I want to check if whatever email provided exists in my database or not. If it's no valid user, what we want to do, so we use the usual if statement, right? So basically, if user is not true, okay, if user is not true, this user doesn't exist because this email doesn't exist, what do we want to do? We want to return the request was done, and now we need to send a response back, right? So we use the next response, And we also want to send the status code, and we can use the generic 400 like not found. Okay. Else if the user does exist, in this case we just want to console.log that information, so we just grab the user information that is actually correct, and we want to console log that information, right? So next step is obviously step number 3, and now it's time for us to check if the password that the user inputted is correct, and we need to compare whatever password is coming from the user request when the user typed it, and we need to compare that to whatever password that we have inside the database, which means the password that is coming from the request, so whatever the user inputted, and you want to compare that against the user dot password that is coming from the database, Hopefully you understand these comments and they are helpful to you. Let me know if these comments are helpful to you, because these videos get a lot longer with all of these explanations and comments, but I think with this I provide you every single bit and you do not get lost. Okay, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. So now what we want to do is to make usage of the bcrypt, because we need to know if the password inputted is actually valid. So what we do is to await, because this is gonna take time, because we want to compare what? We want to compare the password that we actually destructured from the request. We want to compare this password against my user.password. Okay, and of course we should save this inside a const variable, and this is going to be like valid pass. So means valid password. I'm gonna type valid password. Password. There we go. Okay, valid password. Okay, and so we are comparing this, whatever inputted, so request, response, and if the password is not valid pass, and we want to throw an error, and we want to say invalid password or whatever, something similar that makes sense in this case. And as usual, we want to send the status code of 400, not found. So this password doesn't exist in our database. Why am I? Okay, gone. Okay, cool. But if the password is actually valid, we move on to step number 4, which means we need to create the token data. So create the token data, and for that we're gonna use JWT create token data. I'm lost. Come on. Okay, there you go. And what we want to check is the user ID, because notice that MongoDB, let me just make this slightly bigger. MongoDB uses this _ID. It provides you this string, so letters and numbers, and every time you insert a new document into the database, MongoDB will add this automatically. Okay, so this is always, of course, unique. Okay, and we can make usage of that. So we can actually go here and we can say that the ID, okay, that we do not have defined, we have not defined that in our model. Okay, we do not have ID for this model. We could, but we don't have. well, I mean, we could define in some situations in the schema, but not in this example. It's not necessary. What we want is our user, and this is important, dot and not ID. It's underscore ID, because notice that they use underscore ID. If you just do like this, it's not going to work, because in MongoDB you need to add the underscore ID to match here perfectly, right? So you compare this stuff. I mean, now I'm thinking, I'm not really sure I'm adding this, and I'm not really sure if this is really necessary, to be honest, because what we are actually going to compare is the username and the email. No, we want, this is for the token. Yeah, no, yeah, we need this. This is for the token. So we are not even comparing anything. This is for the token, sorry. I'm confusing myself. Plenty of talking and typing and checking. Sorry, but this is all good, I believe. If we get an error, we'll check that. So username, because that's what we have in our schema, Mongoose schema, and email, user.email. So we are creating a token that we need, we are creating the token data, and then we need to create the token, and then we need to access the cookies and send the token. So first step is create the token data. In continuing that step, we need to now create the token. Now it's time to really create the token, and I want to use my token data right over here, and I want to okay, now I need to use process.env, and let me see if we have created this already or not. Yeah, we have the token secret, whatever you want to use. Mine is the JavaScript way, and we need to use this. So cool, we didn't forget that. That's really good. Process.env, cool. And I want to process my token underscore secret. Okay, and this is throwing me an error. Okay, of course it's throwing me an error. I haven't finished this yet, so I'm a bit lost. Hold on a minute. So what the heck am I doing in here? Okay, I'm lost. Okay, token data, let me think. Oh, what is this? .env. Oh, come on. .env, process.env, token data in here, and then I'm gonna have like comma. Okay, and I'm gonna say that this is going to expire in this case in 2 days. Okay, so I'm gonna say expires in, and I'm gonna have a string. I'm gonna say 2 days. This means expires in 2 days. And process.token data. Why am I getting that error? So let me just check. Oh, I said token data. I need to say token secret. Oh no, okay. Token secret, yeah, it's the same. I think if I add this, yeah, so adding this will remove the problem. Okay, this is stuff that, I mean, I'm not really sure why this breaks sometimes, but in here, as you can see, that this await has no effect on the type of this expression. I think it has effect. I don't think I tried without await. You can give it a try if you want. I'm gonna stick to this, so I'm gonna ignore this underline here, whatever. Okay, so we have created the token. Now we need next response to access the user's cookies. So we can I'm gonna type just users cookies in the browser, so we can set a const saying response, and we're gonna need to use next response, and of course it's a JSON format, so JSON, boom, there you go. And we need to set this information, so we need to send this information. The message is going to be login successful. Okay, and I wanna send, I think I wanna, no, this is an object. I can just use a comma in here. I can say success, I can define success to true. Okay, to the boolean. Okay. Okay, why is this? What the heck? Okay, good. Sometimes my computer is a bit slow and scares me a bit. So, actually, we only need one more step. We need 4.2, which means that we now need to send the token to the user's cookies, to users cookies. All right, and we can do this, and this should be enough. So we are almost done, bear with me, and then we are about to be able to log in our user. So cookies.set, so response.cookies.set token, it's the text. Now we are actually sending the token, and in here, this is important, we need to add HTTP only and set that to true. Otherwise, this is gonna break, I believe. And why? Okay, cool, no worries. And if this is all good, we want to just simply return our response, which is this. So if things go through, you just return this. Okay, I think we should be able to register a new, a new user and log in. Just in case, I'm gonna crash the server and restart the server. This is actually not necessary, but I like to do it. Yeah, whatever. And refresh the page, whatever. Ooh, black magic. So let's register a new user. I'm gonna call it Magic. The email is going to be magic@gmail.com, and the password is going to be magic. Cool, register my account, and what the heck? This didn't redirect me. And I have no user, so maybe because I restarted the server, it was still compiling. So let's test this again. So magic email magic@gmail.com, and the password is going to be magic. Register my account. Now it's processing because this is all compiled. Okay. And now I got redirected to the login page, which makes me believe that the user was successfully registered. So let's just refresh the page. I should have two, and I do have two users, as you can see, hashed password, magic, and magic. Cool. So let's continue this magic, shall we? So now we're going to use magic@gmail.com. And we need to use magic one more time. Click login. We are logging you in. And we got redirected to the profile page. Cool. And I actually forgot to show you, but because we have all of these console logs, we can see in our console all of this information, blah, 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 as you can see. And also, if we inspect the front end, we get plenty of information. Okay, boom. Okay, this is why we are using these console logs, but I actually forgot to show you. But you can test this on your own. I added those so you can really see step by step what we are doing. So this is good. So, well, we don't have a sign out button, and I'm not going to do that in this video. Possibly I will add that later on if you really ask me to do it. If not, I'm gonna leave it as it is, and you can figure out that on your own. So let's see. The problem is that, well, it's not even a problem, but the thing is, if we go to the root page, okay, it's recompiling things, we have no home page. We only have the sign up, and of course we have the login, and we checked that everything is working. So let's go back to the home page and let's just build the home page a little bit to make it look a bit better. So we'll add like the title and the call to action button that will redirect us to the sign up page, because now we have no way to access that page because there's no navigation or anything. So let's do that right away. Right, so let's build the UI for the home page because we need it. So otherwise, how can the user access the sign up page and so on? The user can't just by doing like this. So let's go to the source and let's go to the app, and let's forget about this, and we need to go to actually to the page.tsx, which is our root page. That's the home page. So now let's work a little bit on this, and we need to use link. We need to import link from next link. You guessed it, that right, which is cool. Next link. And what we want for our home function, we want to return not this, we actually want to return like a div, and I'm gonna have like an h3, so I'm just creating the markup. Okay, then I'm gonna have like a link, because this is the markup. Okay, so let's style this markup. Let's start with the class name for the outer div. Okay, this should get rid of that error. So let's style the h1 conference, but I want this conference word to stand out. So what I'm going to be doing is I want this to be styled, of course. I want this word to be smaller, so text for Excel only, and I want the color to be text slate 400, so like a grayish color, and I want a margin left of 4. Cool, looking much better in my opinion. And why is this complaining? Cannot find span. I have no idea. I'm gonna leave it. Should be fixed automatically. So now I need to go to my H3 and I'm gonna type Boston. Yeah, whatever. This is just a silly information. This is a fake information, of course. December 2023, and I'm gonna style this. I want a margin Y of 10, top and bottom, and I want to use text to Excel, way smaller because the date it's not so important in this case, but I want to use the font bold. Okay, so I'm gonna get the date. There you go. Looks good to me. And the button is going to say something as count me in. So cool call to action button. I'm gonna style this button so we can actually see it. So let's see. Cool. And now I click here and I will be redirected to the sign up page. Then I can come back to the home page, sign up page, login page. Yeah, this is our routing. It's our navigation per se. So yeah, I think this is done. Yeah, so the project is done. So we have our home page, our sign up page, our login page, and our home page again. And we have tested everything. Everything works. Yeah, this is it. So this project was quite long because this is like one NextJS essential if you want to create full stack apps using NextJS, chances are that you're going to need some sort of registration and login system. Of course, we could add like validation and recover password and all of that good stuff, but this is the simple stuff. So in case you want to see more of this, and if you want me to continue building up this project, I want to read those comments. So if you do not let me know that you want this kind of stuff, I will not keep adding up on this project. So it's up to you. It's in your hands to decide either I continue building this up or not. Thanks a lot. Guess what? One more time, I was forgetting to show you the result of what we did. So here we created the token, and we created the token data, created the token, and we sent the token to the user cookies, but I forgot to show you this. So I actually went ahead after finishing the video and created another user, as you can see, and I logged in with that user, and as we can see, we have access to that token that we created. So what you have to do is like go inspect and go to our application, and you look for the cookies. There you go, and then you get access to the token. So this is what we did, and I'm just showing you this to prove you that we actually created and sent that token to the user's browser. Thanks a lot, and now really is the end of this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!